All right, welcome to Membership Moments, the South Dakota Shared School OverDrive version. Check to find more information about that resource if you go to tie.net and then click on the membership fact. And from there, you can scroll on down and learn all about all of the membership benefits, and you have the link to the TIE Shared OverDrive collection for schools. And from there, we'll be able to find out all about how you can join, the cost, and everything. And to learn more about all the details, we have Connie and Liz from OverDrive with us today. And so we're going to share their screen and learn about OverDrive. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Well, hi, everybody. We are happy to be here. Hopefully you can see the PowerPoint now. So today, Connie and I are going to go over a brief overview of OverDrive and using digital content. And then we'll touch on Sora, which is the student app that students and staff use to access the digital collection, and take you through some updates on what's new, and then also an overview of the shared collection. So I am Liz. I am the account manager. So if you're a current customer and a current user of the shared collection, you probably hear from me often, and I'm joined also by Connie. So I'll let Connie introduce herself and take it away.
Thanks, Liz. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Connie. I'm the account executive at OverDrive. Liz and I do work on a lot of projects together, but I primarily chat with schools who are looking at either starting an OverDrive collection, which may mean joining the consortia, and or expansion with what you're doing currently in your schools. So we appreciate having the opportunity to chat with everyone this afternoon. Liz and I will be sharing some different pieces of this presentation, but also we'll be watching the chat window as we go through the content today. So if you do have a question, please feel free to use that. We'll make sure that everyone's able to hear that question and that we're able to respond to it. If you wouldn't mind going to the next slide. So first, we like to talk a little bit about digital content and really the different areas that OverDrive can work with inside a school district. So different sources of how digital content is used. So this highlights the key areas of content. Oftentimes when we talk about shared collection and participation, many of those resources can fall in that choice and pleasure reading catalog. So just really being able to connect you into a large collection of content that is shared across all students in a shared environment. The next area of content that schools often work with in OverDrive is that instructional area. And really what this can mean for you could be things like a novel in a classroom. It could be supplemental curriculum resources. Oftentimes administrators will come to us and say, when we're studying a unit on volcanoes, we never have enough resources. So being able to supplement some of those library resources in digital, that's a great example. Next is professional development. So really being able to plug your teachers, administrators into also mimicking digital usage. So just think of some of those resources that may be in a teacher lounge or are siloed to one location. By moving those into a digital library, it gives you the opportunity to share those across all of your school buildings. Some of the other areas just to mention would be the ability to support local content. So if you do have students in maybe some of your upper grade levels that are doing self-published pieces, or if you have resources that you want to make available to all of your students, those are great examples of how OverDrive can be used there. And last, just to touch upon some of those open and free resources, and just knowing that we do have access to a large bank of that content as well. And as you start looking to implement OverDrive, that'll be something that we discuss with you in terms of what titles you might want to bring into your collection that your students will be able to take advantage of. So these are just the examples of how school districts typically use OverDrive and digital content. Those are the most common areas. Another thing that we often chat a little bit about is, what is your why? What are some of those reasons that we see schools look to incorporate digital content or look towards more of a balance between paper and digital? So I'll just mention a few of these and some examples that schools share with us frequently. The one that always rises to the top is those scenarios where you do have one-to-one devices. And those may be things that are assigned directly to the student or just resources that are available to the students throughout the day. OverDrive and digital content is just another way to leverage the technology that in a lot of instances is already in place. We also know that many students today, both inside the classroom as well as outside of the classroom, have access to technology. So it's just another way that they can benefit from using those tools from an education perspective. Some of the other things that we see is just that students more and more prefer to read online. So students making more of those inbound requests for how they get to those resources. Being able to personalize the experience. So being in a digital sense, when we look at being able to provide materials to students, it really does open up a lot of opportunity for us to direct resources to them and really meet their needs from a standpoint of where they are from reading levels and just information that may help them in their education journey. The other thing that we see more and more of is just more testing happening online. So it really does drive that need for schools to be able to continue to provide digital resources being used in the classroom for that comprehension. So that's just another skill that by continuing to use a platform like OverDrive, we're giving them those resources that they're using on a regular and ongoing basis. And last, digital is just another way to leverage your district initiatives in meeting your reading goals. And what Liz will show you here shortly is how students can really capture their reading habits and their specific information to meet those goals. So next, what if you could engage more readers? What if you could enhance and personalize learning? And what if you could motivate your students? These are really some of the key areas of Sora. So next, let's take a look at Sora, which is the reading platform for your students.
Thanks, Connie. So I'm going to switch over to Sora, which now I have to find, and show you what Sora looks like and what it'll look like for your students and your staff in your school or district. So Sora is both an app and a web browser site. Your students can access Sora through their personal devices, through computer devices, and all of the information and activity that they do will sync up together. So they could be listening to an audiobook on a Chromebook at school, leave, and then pull it up on their phone and start right where they left off on that computer at school. They also have the ability to download audiobooks and ebooks to their device for offline usage. So if they have it on the computer or their device and they're on the school Wi-Fi, but they leave, go someplace that doesn't have Wi-Fi, they'll be able to access the content. What you're seeing on the screen is the web version of Sora, and I'm using our demo site so I don't take any of the Tide checkouts away from the students or the staff. But it looks very similar. There's just a difference in title and various collections on that page. So with the Tide collection, we have an on-staff librarian named Sheila who helps to curate and organize the content in that collection. So the first time students and staff log into Sora, they'll be taken to the Explore page. There are 4 main pages down here at the bottom, and the middle button has the last book that I opened popping up, which is Hi Fly Guy. The Explore page is where the students will find their content and look for titles that interest them to check out. These are organized in collections, and the collections vary. We update them for the Tide collection often. We always have state award collections and specific trending collections available. Students can also browse by subject. If you have a school that has different grade levels, so maybe you have some elementaries, some middle schools, and a high school, we can automatically filter the content so that the elementary students are only seeing appropriate elementary titles, middle school students are seeing appropriate middle school and below titles, and then high school students can see the entire collection. As students scroll, the search bar also follows them, so they can always stop and search for a specific book that they're looking for. But if they find a particular collection that looks interesting to them, they can select that collection and browse through those titles. If they're interested in a book and want to learn more, they'll click on the cover. It gives them information on this title, additional titles that are similar in the collection, and some background information from the publisher regarding levels. They can read a sample or click borrow, and when they select borrow, the book will automatically open and they can immediately start reading that text. As an educator, you're able to directly link to any book in Sora by copying the URL on that book's page. So you could send that URL directly to a student if they were looking for a specific book. You can also share an entire collection. So if you wanted your students to be reading the award books for a certain week or month as an initiative, you could take the URL, make it into a QR code, or put it into whatever system you use for your students, and they would be taken directly to that curated collection, and you would know the books they're checking out are the ones that you're expecting them to be checking out during that time period. So as the students look through the Explore, they can always see all the collections by clicking on collections or set some preferences. If they're looking for only books that are available right now, maybe they don't want to wait on a hold for anything. They could also be looking simply for audiobooks or ebooks. So lots of options to change their preferences and look for specific items. Pretty simple and easy for students to use. Once the students have a book checked out, they'll go to their home page, which is where things get really personalized for the students. At the top are assignments. You can assign books as long as you own them in your Advantage account, and we'll talk about Advantage accounts in a little bit, but essentially an Advantage account is a private account underneath the shared collection where you can purchase titles for only your students to use. So they don't get shared with everybody else in the collection, and then you have the ability to title assign those to students for up to 6 months. Maybe it's an audiobook to supplement a unit that is currently being taught, but you have that ability to give that to the students. I have my personal loans underneath, so these are books that I've checked out myself. Recently defined words, which I'll show you in the text, recent notes and highlights, and also books that I might be interested in based on what I've been checking out. So apparently I've been reading a lot of Shakespeare. So I'm going to read all of King Henry because that is what it's suggesting. But mine change a lot. I check out a lot of different books at all times. So I'm going to open up The Giver because I just assigned that one to myself today. I previously had this checked out, so it's taking me right to where I last left off. On the bottom, you can see I've made some highlights already, and if I were to click on any of these, it would take me to that highlight in the text. I also have the ability to view this book as if it's an open book, as it currently is, or I can make it a one-page book if that's less distracting for me. In the menu in the upper right-hand corner, I can personalize this a little bit more by going to Reading Settings and changing the scale of the text. I can make it larger or smaller. Students can also change the background. So if I needed to read not on a white background, or it was nighttime and I wanted to give my eyes a break, I can adjust those. There's a few different presets here, but I'll use this Open Dyslexic font, which makes the words bottom heavy and helps those students with vision cognition issues better comprehend what they're reading. Anything a student chooses in this reading setting is going to stay the same for every book that they open until they go back in and change it. So they don't have to worry each time they open a title if they have to make the font bigger, if they have to change the background. It's automatically done for them each time. Especially for students that play sports and come in and have a concussion and all of a sudden they need large print text and you don't have that title in a large print. That's a really simple way to get the book for them that day through your Advantage account, and then they can increase the text size and have it available for what they need to do in class. Out of reading settings, the students can play around with bookmarks, look at different chapters. There's a ton of search functions. But if they click on the name of the book in this in this menu, it gives them some information on how long they spent reading this particular text, which as a previous English teacher, I truly enjoy, because if a student is not performing that well on a particular text they're reading, you could ask to see their reading statistics on that title and see how much time they're actually spending on there. So if it says 10 minutes, you know they're not really engaging with that text. But they can also reveal estimates. So based on my pace and how far I am in the book, this says that if I were to sit down and finish this book right now, it would take me 27 minutes. So I could have it done in about a half an hour. This third number is based on how long I've had this title checked out, and because I had it assigned to me for a long time and I just reassigned it, it thinks it'll take me a while. But the second number is important for those students that are busy after school, they have a lot going on, and they just want to know, how long realistically until I finish this. I like to use it at night when I'm going to see if I can finish a book before I fall asleep because I'm tired. So it's a great way for them to gauge where they're at and what they have left in that particular text. The same thing is available in audiobooks. So they have that ability to see that in audio as well. Even though they have that time counter, it's a little bit easier for some students. So back in the text here, as students are scrolling through, if they see a word that they don't know, they'll click and hold and have the option to define the word. The definition pops up in the text. They have synonyms, a definition, but if they scroll all the way to the bottom, they can click on Google or Translate, and it will take them over to Google Translate, and they can translate that word into any language that they need. Same thing with a phrase. So if the student really needed that word in context to better translate it, they could highlight a sentence and also use that translate function. Anytime I define a word in the text, it's adding it to my recently defined words list on my home page. As they're reading and they want to remember something or highlight it, they'll click and hold and select highlight. They can pick a highlight color. So I usually say pink are my class discussion, green are for my paper, and yellow are literary devices. So we'll say this is for a discussion. And then I have the option to add a note. So I'll say Jonas is talking. And they can click on that highlight and see the note that they took on that, as well as click in the middle, see their various highlights, or click in this menu to bookmarks and see all the places, highlights, and notes that they've made in the text so far. This also has the dates that I completed that on. Search is the last item in that highlight function. So if I'm back in the text and I'd like to know everywhere the giver is mentioned, I can search for it. And that will give me a list of all those places. I can click on any of those and it'll take me to that area of the text. So I used to do word journals with my students, especially for Shakespeare. They had to track a word throughout the text. So that search function would have been something I'm sure they would have loved, instead of having to go back through the paper copy of it to better see where all those words were. So I'll close out of here, back on my home page. Those recently defined words, you can see confronted is now added. I'm going to click to see all of my defined words. And I have the option to export these. And because I'm on a computer, my options are to have it as a PDF, CSV, which is like Excel. I can put it in a text or just copy this, or I can export to my Google Drive directly. Students have those same abilities with the notes and highlights. I maintain my notes and highlights for books, even if they're no longer checked out to me, so I can always access my annotations. For example, I no longer have this title checked out, but I still have the note. I can also make notes on audiobooks and read-alongs. So this particular title is a read-along. I've made a highlight and a note in it. This one is an audiobook. I made a note, and you can still color code it. It just shows up as a bookmark, and make those notes and those titles. So annotations are available for everything. For this, I only want to see my notes for the giver because that's what I'm working on. And I only want to see my pink highlights because I'm getting ready for my discussion. So I've narrowed it down. And then I will take these and have those same export abilities. So just to show you it in a PDF, this is what the students would have to take with them for their notes. Again, as an educator, a little piece that is helpful for you is you can see the date and the area they were in when they made that note and highlight. So again, if they're to be annotating as they read, and you're seeing them bounce all around, or the date, they're all from last night. It just gives you a little bit of insight into how they're using the text and some conversations on how they can better be annotating and interacting with a particular title. Shelf shows all my books together at once and gives me the ability to renew titles that are due soon. I can also create lists of titles that I want to read next. So I have a silent sustained reading list here of titles I'd be interested in reading in the future. So I can pick from those. And then the Me tab gives me specific statistics on how I'm using Sora. So you can see I've opened a lot of books, but my average time per book is a little bit shorter. So you can always ask a student to see their Me tab and get some information on how they're accessing the titles and how they're accessing the app. You also get this data collectively in Marketplace if you have that Advantage account. So you're able to pull for your specific school how the students are using the app and the titles day by day, and you get that collectively for your students. They also earn achievements as they go. I am a stellar student, and I have most of my achievements, and I can tell you I probably won't read 15 minutes after 11 p.m. just because I have a 1.5-year-old and I love my sleep. But there are a ton of achievements. We see districts and schools often, I just clicked on that. They often will have students try to earn achievements and give out small prizes for that, especially over breaks and in the summertime. So it's a great incentive if you're looking to incentivize your students in new ways. Finally, you can connect to the public library. So there's two ways to do that. One is in this top menu here. I can click it to drop down and select Add a Public Library, You can see I'm actually already connected to one. Or in this menu on the side, I can also select to add a public library. So I think you all are like Black Hills Library Digital Consortium is one. Also, if you are in the Black Hills Special Services Cooperative, which is that PD collection, you can also add that to your Sora account and have it all connected so you're viewing everything in one place. But I'll add the Black Hills Library. And this is going to show students the juvenile and young adult content from the public library as a general filter. So we don't want students to go on and be able to see everything at the public library, but just the appropriate titles available to them. If students have a public library card, they can check out a book. So when I go to select borrow, it'll prompt me to sign in. I'll sign in once with my library card, and then it will forever be linked to my Sora account. If your district is interested in setting up an easier way for your students to sign in, so whether that's giving them all library cards or authenticating through your current methods of authentication, Google, Microsoft, anything like that, we can set that up on the back end here and work with your library to make that connection happen. So you can reach out to myself or Connie. We'll have our information at the end of this to make that process even easier for students. If a student is searching for a book, they can search and select to search all of the libraries they're connected to. The first one that'll show is that TIE digital collection. Oops. And then the other ones will be the library that they're connected to. So they can search and see if it's available in the school collection, or maybe there's a shorter hold at the public library. So they have that full connection with the public library as they go. Connie, any additional comments on that? I think we're good.
Sorry, no, I'm good.
You're okay. So moving on, a little bit about the shared collection for the Thai schools. We do monthly reports for the collection that show the current customers and current users a snapshot of usage. So this is from this September. The pie chart that you're seeing, blue represents items that are in that shared collection, and orange represents titles owned by Advantage members. So this is great information to share because you can see there's about 3,000 total titles available in that Thai collection. There's about 332 audiobooks, 2,789 ebooks, and there are even more now because we add new ones every month. We track the holds to alleviate some holds and make sure that we're getting hot new titles for the collection. To be honest, we love this collection, and so we take really, really good care of it and make sure that we get brand new stuff first for you guys because you are such great users and very invested in the content that's there. So we just got Scholastic content, and this was one of the first collections that Sheila went to in order to have that available for you all. So you usually get, the hot stuff first. Recently, we also added some free Batman comics as well. So lots of great things happening for Ty. However, the orange numbers show that the users of this collection really make it their own by adding content in their Advantage account. So if you do not currently have an Advantage account, we would be happy to set one up to you, and that'd be something that Connie can work with you on. If you're thinking about joining, we highly recommend that you put some funds in there and get some additional titles that are really specific for your students so that they are getting everything they need. So for September, you can see some statistics. Our most engaged schools for the month, Diary of a Wimpy Kid is still doing wonderful. Our most popular audiobooks, and then trending subjects. These really change month to month. It's just one piece of data that we use to give us information on the collection. So that Advantage account is where you're able to assign titles to students that you have purchased. You can also purchase content that can alleviate holds for your students if they're just waiting for the shared titles. You can get specific things that your school or district needs. So supplemental materials for units, Battle of the Books titles, audiobooks, and then any specific curated collections that you might want to add. So we automatically make that Explore page for you, but in your Advantage account, you have the ability to add some additional collections there and make it more custom for what your students see. And again, that Advantage account will be through Connie, and then she can help you really see like what you're trying to do with it and where you want to go. A little background on lending models for digital, if it's new to you. We offer these 5 main lending models for schools. One copy, one user, and metered access are our default because that's what the publishers mostly use. One copy, one user are titles that you purchase once and they never expire from your collection, but they are checked out to one student at a time. So they function just like a title on your shelf. Metered access, you still check out to one student at a time, but you're essentially leasing that title for a specific amount of time. Generally, it's a certain amount of months, so 12 to 24 months, or a certain amount of checkouts, usually 26. And the publisher says, you can lease this book until you reach this specific metered time, and after that, you choose if you want to keep it in your collection or not by repurchasing. Cost per circ is when you pay only when a title is borrowed. Usually the public libraries use that one to test titles, but if you had a small book club, that might be one to try, and we're happy to provide more information on that. Simultaneous use are titles that can be borrowed simultaneously between your students. We do not add those to the shared collection, so that's a good place to use that Advantage account and get some titles that everyone in your school could use at the same time for a specific amount of time. And then finally, class sets are titles that are rented to users. The price on those is priced per student. So I usually recommend those if you have a staff member that wants to try out digital for a unit. That's a cost-effective way to test those waters. Generally, you can select to have a class set for 3 to 6 months, and you'll pay per student. So you'll have a list of usernames and say, I'd like these 30 students to have this book for the 3 months, but it cannot be changed from student to student. And once that 3-month period is over, those titles go away and they're no longer in the collection at all. On to updates. So if you're a current user of TIE, this is some exciting new information. In Sora, before we get to this, we recently launched multilingual support, so your students can change the entire app into a language that is native to them or more comfortable for them. If they have the app on a device, it'll automatically adjust to the language of the device. If they're on it in the web browser, then they can adjust the language setting there. The other thing coming to Sora, not live yet, is accessibility. So providing more support for screen reading and for students with those vision issues to make sure that they're able to use the entire app as needed. So those are big Sora updates. Marketplace has been doing quite a lot of work as well, which is our back-end admin tool. So the first new item is Google Classroom integration. So if you currently use Google Classroom and you are in Marketplace, you'll start to see the Google Classroom logo, the chalkboard with the 3 people, underneath any title that is owned by the shared collection. And so you can click on that classroom logo and add that title to a class or to specific students, and they'll be taken directly to that title to read. You're also able to do that with curated collections. So you can link a specific curated collection in your Google Classroom and assign it to a class. So again, using those curated collections to make a supplemental curation for a unit you're doing. We see a lot of them this time of year with Frankenstein. There's a ton of books to supplement with Frankenstein, and audiobooks to go with it as well. So for a week, the students could spend time exploring those different titles, and you directly link them through Google Classroom. The other item that is new is educators in Marketplace. So we've set up a new type of user in Marketplace if you've had teachers begging you for access that gives them a limited scope of some Marketplace items. They have the ability to browse titles, to assign titles that you've purchased in that Advantage account. They can view Sora activity, so they can pull reports on how students are using Sora. And they're also able to curate. So they don't have the ability to go in and purchase items, but they could build a cart and give input on certain things. So if you're interested in adding educators to your current Advantage account, we can walk you through that step by step. Just reach out and we're happy to help. So our last item, I think, is this Discover Sora reminder. So if you're a current TIE user with the shared collection, you have access to Sora and you can log in with your username and password with your authentication. But if this is new and you're interested in trying it before you're committing, you can visit discoversora.com and say that you're an educator, because you are. Put your email in and you will get a 60-day free trial. You can try out different types of books. There's a whole collection in there, and be able to explore Sora before you make that full decision on what to do. And if you do sign in, Connie will follow up with you and make sure you are able to get in there, you're able to figure everything out and use it, and make sure you're getting all the right information. Connie, anything extra on that?
Yeah, so just to add to that, it's a great opportunity, as Liz mentioned, to check out Sora. The collection is curated also by grade level, so it's a great opportunity to kind of scroll in that search area and just see different examples by grade level. And you also can layer in your public library card if you'd like to see that experience inside Sora. The trial will give you the ability to do that as well.
Perfect. So that's the end of our overview. If there's any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. Our information is here. We will make sure we get it answered, or we send it to the person that can answer it. It doesn't matter for either one of us, but feel free to give us a call, send us an email, and let us help you get it going. So that's about it. Thank you all so much.
Yep. Also, I'm not seeing any additional questions on the chat window, but as always, do not hesitate to reach out to us if there's any other questions that came up, as Liz mentioned.
Perfect.
This is wonderful. Thank you guys both so much. And you've really streamlined the setup here in South Dakota. Many of the schools, as you know, are using the K-12 data center and student email addresses for login. And even if your kids don't have email addresses, the K-12 data center will work with you to set up that looks like an email address without the email turned on, so that learners can use that to log in even before they don't have email. So lots of really great options to authenticate our learners and make sign-in easy. And it's just really exciting. And I was really excited to see the usage for September. That's nice.
Yes. I love back to school. I love seeing it all come back. So yeah, you all do great things.
Well, thanks. Well, you guys really help make that possible, because I really appreciate your support, and it's been really good to provide this opportunity for the schools.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thanks, guys.
Yes, thank you so much.